Namaste. We are here with Shri K. Muhammed sir, a man who has adorned Mother India by discovering her jewels. Sir, welcome.
Namaskar.
Sir, you are a person who made history with history. So, what inspired you to take up archaeology, and have you ever had a role model, and what made you different from others?
See, I had an interest in history and archaeology. At that time, not in archaeology but in history, while I was even in 5th and 6th standard. But when I reached 9th and 10th standard, I happened to read 2-3 books which inspired me a lot, which influenced me a lot. The first book was The Discovery of India by Nehruji, but of course not in English, because Nehruji's English is very flowery language, and at that time I did not know that kind of English also. So it was translated into Malayalam by Madhubhumi. So, and that Madhubhumi Malayalam was also equally good, very flowery language. And then the glimpses of the world, history of world, a short history of the world, that was also by Nehruji, and that was also translated into Malayalam by Madhubhumi. So these two books that inspired me a lot. And the third book was, because we mostly these Muslim students, we used to study Malayalam only up to 5th standard, and then we would switch into Arabic language. So for improving our Malayalam, there was a non-detailed book that is in Malayalam. So in which there was one book known as Through the Hearts of India, that was by Umayanallur Balakrishna Pilla. So he had given a very good description about the North India, Delhi, Agra, and more particularly about Nalanda University. So that also again influenced me very much. And then they took a decision, that was a conscious decision, that after my high school, I will not continue my studies in Kerala. Instead, I will be going somewhere in North India. So that North India means, mostly Delhi, Agra or Bihar. And fortunately, I got admission in Aligarh Muslim University, which is only 50 kilometers away from Agra and 100 kilometers away from Delhi. So that really, because once you are in Delhi and Agra, you are face to face with the monuments, with the history, because there you can put a tongue in each and every stone if you know the history. So that is what I have been doing. So I developed an interest in archaeology also. But then something happened in my life, although I stood second in order of merit, I was not given admission for PhD, which was my due, and instead of me, it was given to a student who was having 16,000 marks less than me in MA, more than 100 marks less than me in BA. So that was a kind of shock for me. And the person with whom I was fighting, he was a very important historian, and he was a politician also. So you just cannot fight against him, because then that means you would be ruining your life. Then I thought, I will go for my second option, and my second option was, of course, archaeology. I applied for Archaeological Survey of India. I got admission, and once I got the admission, I felt, because that was blessing in disguise for me, because that, denial of the PhD, that was a blessing in disguise. And I had come to the right topic, because earlier, if you are learning, if you are studying about Chandragupta Maurya or Gupta dynasty, in BA also you will be studying the same thing, in MA also you will be studying thing, of course in detail. But here you have an opportunity to go to each and every monument and study them right before you. So that was a great opportunity, and I passed out and immediately I got my job also in the same university which had earlier refused me admission for PhD. And then I could make some of the most important discoveries in Fatehpur Sikri. The discovery of the great Ibadat Khana, where Akbar had invited people from all the religions, and ultimately he evolved a new religion known as Deen-e-Ilahi that I could discover. So that was a major this one discovery, which was published in many of these newspapers also. And then because of that I got admin, again I got my selection in Archaeological Survey of India. And then almost for 24 years I was with Archaeological Survey of India. 10 years I served in Aligarh Muslim University and 24 years in Archaeological Survey of India. So that was the turning point in my life.
Sir, you have traveled all over the world, but more into India.
Yeah.
So, in your perspective, what is India? What is the significance of archaeology in India, who is a titan of history and culture?
Yes. India is one of the 4 most important countries as far as the heritage is concerned. You have the great Egyptian civilization, you have the great Mesopotamian civilization, Greek civilization, Chinese civilization and Indian civilization. These are the 5 most important civilizational countries. If you simply market your heritage, you would be able to earn a lot of foreign currency. But what we have to do is, we have to market it in the proper way. You have to have excellent guides, because behind every monument there is a wonderful story. That story should be narrated very well, so that people would be attracted, and not only attracted, they would come to know about your great heritage. And once you know about the importance of your own heritage, that would be, because that would this one would be able to shake up your personality and create a new India. That is what is required. For example, if you go to Nalanda University, because I worked there for a long time, and I completely reshaped that excavated Nalanda University also. So there, there is a very beautiful story behind Nalanda also. So once you go to Nalanda University as a tourist, you take your ticket, then you should be taken to an interpretation center, where there should be a very short documentary of 10 or 15 minutes speaking about what is Nalanda, what was its history, what a great university it was, because once upon a time it had 10,000 students and 1,500 teachers. That kind of magnificent university. But now it is completely in peril. Once you know that you are walking on the same footsteps where Lord Buddha he had walked down, then the whole impression of the university will be completely different. Once you know that you are walking on the same ground on which the great Huangsang had walked, and for studying in this university, he had travelled 16,000 kilometers on foot, and you are coming to that university and you are walking on his footsteps. So once you know all this history, then each stone of this Nalanda University, that will be speaking to you, and you will be able to put a tongue in each and every stone, and the stones will speak to you. The importance of the simple stones will be multiplied several times. So from that point, you should be picked up by a very well informed guide, and that guide should speak about all these things, and then he would be able to take you each and every place, and by the time you come out, you would be really proud of your own great ancient universities and your heritage. So that should be, because when you come out, you should be recharged. So that kind of impression you should have. So government of India should create it. I have in my book also, there is an Indian I am, I have very clearly spoken about it. Each monument in the country is a powerhouse, and it can awaken your Kundalini. So, that impression the government of India can only do it, but unfortunately that is not happening now.
So, mentioning about that, sir, the younger generation, which include even me, we only go to these historical places, historical monuments, just to relax ourselves or just to see it as a tourist spot. That became a trend. But to inspire them, to make them understand what what India really was and its legacy, what should be our steps and what should we as children, as the younger generation do.
When you go to a historical place, it should not be simply a tourist place. Tourist place, of course, you can have in the beaches, you can have in the lush green landscape, of course, you can have it in Himalayas, you can have, these are all, this one tourist places. But an archaeological monument is not simply a tourist place. It should be a rejuvenating center. Once you come out of it, you should be proud of your own heritage, your own scientific achievement of the country also, without any exaggeration, because there we have to be very careful. I often tell people we have to speak about our own scientific achievement, but at the same time you should not get into the world of exaggeration, that oriental hyperboles, that should not happen, because if that goes into this one, our historical understanding, then that will create a lot of problem in future. So, what the government of India has to do is, every monument, whether it is Nalanda University, whether it is Ajanta, Ellora, or it is if the Taj Mahal, there should be first of all a small interpretation center. People should be introduced about the monument, about the history, art, architecture and everything. And then a guide should be compulsory. If there is no guide, you will not be able to understand anything. So, guide should be compulsory, and he will be telling the stories, the real story, not the fake stories, the real stories. And see, by the time you come out of the monument, you finish your talk, you would be completely a different person. I have done it with so many people. When Barack Obama came to Humayun's tomb, I was his guide. And he told me, asked me so many questions, both he and his wife, they asked me so many questions about India. They put me in between. As per the protocol, I should not be in between both of them. I should be on one side. But they were asking so many questions about India and Indian, especially about the Indian Upanishads. Then they told me that you come in between because we have a lot of questions. So, you can change people. When Parvez Musharraf came to Taj Mahal, I was again his guide. So, I spoke to him about the changing moods of Taj Mahal. Now, if you are going to Taj Mahal, you will be going early in the morning sometimes, or sometimes it would be in the afternoon, or sometimes it would be in the evening. So, you would be viewing Taj Mahal only in that particular light. But there is a changing moods of Taj Mahal, that early in the morning it would be in a mood, in a calm and composed mood. By 10 o'clock, it would be changing again its moods. By afternoon, it would be changing again its mood. Then in the evening, it would be in a different mood. And then when the when the moon shines, it would be completely a different mood. So, these things should be spoken by somebody. So, unless and until it is narrated, you will not be able to understand. So, because that is happening mostly Taj Mahal, most of the Mughal monuments, that would be in the center of a garden. That means the foreground and the background would be the same thing, that is the garden. But Taj Mahal is located on the edge of a river. So, only the foreground is the garden, but in the background there is nothing, because it is just on the edge of the river. So, what you see is the horizon, and this horizon early in the morning it will be in one mood, it would be again in 10 o'clock it would be different, afternoon it would be different, evening it would be different, and then when the sun, when the moon shines, during that it would be again reflecting. Why this is happening is because that is the only monument which is made of marble, and marble would be reflecting every rays of the sun. That is why this is happening. So, somebody should speak about it, and also about the Quranic ayat written on that one, on Taj Mahal. So, if those things are correlated, things would be, your understanding and your appreciation of Taj Mahal would be completely different. So, this is the kind of impression we have to create. Then only you would be able to sell your monuments also, which is now again not happening.
Sir, we visit these monuments, but to study them in our textbooks, it's changing every year.
Yes.
So each year, every batch is studying different history.
Yeah.
So, what is your opinion about it, and how will it affect the future?
Because the new researchers are coming in the field of history. So, all those new researchers also you will have to incorporate into your syllabus. So, that will go on changing. But what we have to do is we have to project everything without any kind of bias. Once the bias come in and you are interpreting history as per you want, then that will create problems. You have to say this has happened, and that is for us to understand this mistake has happened in the past, but now at least in future that should not continue. So, that should be the lesson we have to take from history. If that is done, many of the ills from which our country is suffering, that would be automatically resolved.
Sir, how has the British era, their rule, altered our history, our Mughal history or history before that? Has they altered them, or is the history we have now refined by them?
See, although we had a very great heritage, we were not much aware of our own heritage before some of the great British people rediscovered it. For example, the Brahmi script, we did not know it was written by Ashoka, but over the years we had forgotten it. But then it was James Prinsep who could decipher it. Once it was deciphered, most of the inscriptions of this Ashoka and the later period also, we could discover, we could decipher and we could interpret it, and the whole history of India then started coming out. That was their contribution. Alexander Cunningham, he is known as the father of archaeology in India. So, they have made great contribution to Indian history. Of course, there were certain people who had their mind, some other things also. Some of the people were missionaries, and that they had that missionary spirit also, but at the same time blaming the entire English people as missionaries, that is not proper. Their contribution is great, because for example, up to this one 1820, we knew that our history goes back only to 6th century BC. 6th century BC means Buddha's period. Even about Buddha also, we did not know that he was an Indian. Many of the historians thought that he was an African, and some people said that he was an Ethiopian. But it was they who said, no, he is not an Ethiopian, he is neither an Ethiopian nor an Egyptian, but an Indian. And similarly, we knew that our history goes only back up to 6th century BC. But then it was John Marshall, he was another great historian, who excavated, first of all, he excavated Harappa also, then 400 kilometers beyond that he excavated Mohenjo-daro also. And when he looked at the things, both the cultures are the same thing. Then he compared it with some of the discovery. The seals have been discovered from there. That seal was discovered, in Mesopotamia also. So, in that Mesopotamia, it was discovered at a depth of 400 BC. And it was because when they discovered this kind of the same kind of Harappan seals in Mesopotamia, for the first time we came to know that our history goes back to 2500 BC, and Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were also excavated. And then not only that, we also came to know that we had trade relation with Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. So, all these discoveries were given by them, and blaming them, that is not proper, because whenever I go to a seminar, I find the same thing, that it was the British people who had completely ruined our country. It is not like that. Of course, there were certain people who had a missionary zeal, but that was very limited. Otherwise, most of the English people who have done tremendous contribution for the discovery of the Indian civilization.
Sir, has India's true legacy, true face, has it come out, or is it complete?
Not at all, because we have a great heritage, and it is even now simply lying in ruins at various places. For example, if you go to Hampi, Hampi is in Karnataka, the capital of the great Vijayanagara Empire. It was one of the greatest temples of that time. Still, the great bazaars of Hampi, the great Virupaksha bazaar, the Pansupadi bazaar, all of them are still lying in ruins. I pleaded with so many people, you give a 20 crores of rupees for Virupaksha bazaar, it is almost 2 kilometers. Many parts are lying there. We can reconstruct them, as I have reconstructed Bateshwar. Similarly, there is Krishna bazaar is there, that is also lying now in ruins. Why can't the government of India? They speak a lot about this one, the great heritage of India. They say that Gauravshali Itihas ki baat karte hai, the golden age ki baat karte hai. If you are spending 20 crores of rupees on one bazaar, 10 crores of rupees another Krishna bazaar, you can not only re-erect them, and that can compete with the Greek bazaars and Roman bazaars also. So, that kind of heritage we have, but you have to change yourself, you have to have a bigger, wider vision should be there, and then there should be certain driving forces also. And I often speak about Jagmohan. Jagmohan was a minister in Vajpayee government's period. He was such a great personality, and you have to have political people with a great vision and the driving force also, because if you have only vision, it is not going to serve. But if you have got the vision and also at the same time the dynamism, which is which would be translating things into this one reality. So, both these qualities should combine into person, then only we would be able to change.
So, sir, what do you have to say to our own Indians who from their childhood want to visit the countries outside India, and even consider their history, their monuments, their works superior to ours? What do you have to say to them?
No, I don't think their cultures are superior to us. In certain places, for example, Egyptian culture, you look at the pyramid, the height is 480 feet, and some of the stones, some of them are weighing 20 tons. So, of course, they had that kind of scientific achievement was there. But we have not only the scientific achievement in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro and many other places, but we had a spiritual strength also, which many other countries are not having. That is, this one, Mesopotamia is, this one was not having that kind of spiritual strength. Egypt was not having that kind of spiritual strength. China was not having that spiritual, Greek was not having that spiritual strength. So, we have both the spiritual strength also and the physical strength also. But the only thing is where we are lacking is we have failed in projecting our own image to the world. That is what we have to do now.
So in the future, to increase the flow of our own history to our minds, what mindset should we adopt?
See, I mean, that is in educational system itself we will have to change. For example, while I was in Delhi and Sheila Dikshit was the chief minister at that time. So, I went to madam, I had very good relation. Then I told them that because the students are there, every school should be made compulsory in the schools, that students should be taken to the monuments and not simply taken into the monument, because if you are simply taking the monuments students to the monument, they would be, because they will have all the freedom and they will run all over. That should not be like that. It should be, you should have a informed guide also with them, and after that you have to have a test also of what they have seen it. So, there should be a small notebook also, that note should be provided by them, that is by the students. So, this was I mean, if you want to pass out your 6th standard or 7th standard, you should visit this number of monuments. So, that was part of their curriculum itself. So, you have to have the same kind of thing. And then I made one more thing. If you go to some of the North Indian monuments, there they would be scribbling their names along with the names of some other girls. So, this was a bigger problem, scribbling on the monument. So, I made them, because whenever the students come to the monument, I told them that you have to take an oath that you would not be scribbling on the monuments. So, this I had made it in Patna also, because earlier I was working in Patna. So, I said that this is the new Ashokan inscription. So, in which they would be taking an oath that they would not be scribbling on the monuments. I made it in Delhi also, in Agra also, and wherever I was posted, I did it. So, this way you can change their own heart, and now this kind of scribbling that has considerably come down. Now, people are aware also, that is also there. And then what I had done was, I contacted the education ministry. So, we have 2 important days. One is 18th of April, that is World Heritage Day. But most of the schools are, this one may be on leave on those days. But there is another day that is known as World Heritage Week. That is for 15 days. That is from 19th of November up to 25th. So, in which also at 10 o'clock in the schools, students will be standing up in their own classes, and then they will be taking an oath that they would not scribble on the monument. So, these are very simple ways in which if you are interested, you can get it done, and that will influence the students also. There are so many ways.
Sir, has any one of your findings, or maybe so many of them, clash or have the print of modern science findings? Was the ancient India more advanced than the future world?
I am an archaeologist. I will go simply by whatever is in front of you, only by the scientific achievement. It is not by exaggerations, because now there is a trend to exaggerate everything. We had ancient India had this thing, that thing, we had Pushpaka Vimana, we knew surgery and all those things. So, I do not believe in all those things, and I speak openly against them also. But at the same time, in certain fields, we had made important achievement. During the Gupta period we had, during the Ashokan period we had, and then during the subsequent period also, we had made great advances in the field of science, but it cannot be compared with the modern things. So, that is not only in India, in China also it had, in Greece also it had, in almost all the countries. So, but at the same time, whenever you speak about Ramayana or Mahabharata, Some people would say, some extreme, group of people would say, no, these are all cock and bull stories, there is no truth in that one. And another person would say, no, 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 whatever is spoken in Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are right. And the truth, as far as an archaeologist is concerned, in between. Because even Mahabharata also, originally it had only 2400 verses. That was, at that time it was known as Jaya. Then it became 800 verses. 8,000 verses, and now it has 1 lakh verses. So that means, additions and alterations were there, of course. And we don't say, so people would say, so one group will say, no, it is completely this one exaggeration. Others would say, no, it is fully, whatever is spoken about in this one in Mahabharata or Ramayana, that is completely true. As an archaeologist, when Professor B.B. Lal excavated this one, Hastinapura, because Hastinapura was the capital, when he excavated, he also had the same problem in front of him. But there was a reference about one flood in Mahabharata, and that was it was spoken, and about this flood Vayu Purana had spoken, and there was a verse also. I am just forgetting that one. Gangeya apahride nagaram nagaswakaye, Gangeya apahride nagaram nagaswakaye, Tyuktar nijachur nagaram kaushambeyam sanivatsayade. That while Nijakshu was ruling, Nijakshu was the fifth from Abhimanyu. While he was ruling, there was a great flood in Hastinapura. Everything was washed out, and then people shifted from here to Kaushambi, which is 120 kilometers from Hastinapura. So, when he excavated it, first of all he got that flood line, which means whatever was spoken in Vayu Purana, and it is there in Matsya Purana also, that is right. But he wanted to further verify it, whether the same thing continued in Kaushambi or not, because as was said in Vayu Purana and Matsya Purana. And when they excavated it, Kaushambi, which is 120 kilometers away from here, and they got the cultural continuity of the civilization which was there in Hastinapura, proving that Vayu Purana and Matsya Purana was right. But at the same time, exaggerations and other thing, that you have to exclude it, and that happened everywhere. Even in Greek civilization also, in Homer's, this one, also the same thing. This has happened even in Bible also. There is a reference about Noah's flood is there. So this has happened in every civilization. So you have to be, as an archaeologist, you have to be very clear. Neither go with the extreme group of people who say that everything is, whatever is said in Ramayana, Mahabharata, that is 100% correct, nor with those people who completely throw it out. So we are in between.
Sir, again the timelines of the happenings of these events, like the Ramayana or Mahabharata, timelines of in the Vedas and the mentionings of yugas, are they accurate, and even the timeline of these events, are they accurate as per the Puranas?
There are 4 yugas: Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali Yuga. Archaeologists, so far they do not have any evidence to prove those things, because as per Dwapara Yuga, because it is 80,000 years back, and Satya Yuga is even millions of years, that is not there as far as archaeology is concerned, because our dating of Mahabharata is roughly from 1500 BC to 1700 BC, or it could come down to 1300 BC also. That is the Mahabharata period. and of course Rama was before that. So, if Rama is before that, I mean he would be roughly around 1800 years or 1900 or it could be 2000 years also. And the whole human history, that is what we call this one, the whole human history starts from the civilizational period starts from 3500 BC onwards. Not beyond that. Beyond that, you have got Neolithic period is there, then you have got Mesolithic period, then you have got Paleolithic period. As far as the heritage, I mean the archaeology is concerned. So, archaeology does not accept that the Yuga concept. We have completely different set of this thing. But now there are certain discoveries, that is the most accepted view, but now there are certain things are coming out, that is there is a place in Turkey known as Gobli Tepe. There the history of the civilization goes back to 12,000 BP. BP means before present, that is 10,000 BC. So, that is a great challenge now, because people are grabbing this one, what to do, how to reconcile with the existing knowledge. This has become a question now. It's a debate is going on. The same thing may happen here in India also.
As the last question, as a person who devoted his life to the past, to history, what do you have to say to the future?
See, history should be, many mistakes have happened in history. Many wrong things have taken place in history. For example, the Indian history itself, when Muslims came to India, they have destroyed a number of temples. They have massacred people. As a student of history, I know it, because I have seen all these things from very close quarters. And there should not be any attempt from the side of the Muslims also. And when the English people came, they have also done it. When the Portuguese came, they have also done the same kind of thing. We should not try to justify what their ancestors have done. There should not be any attempt to justify it. Accept this is a historical truth. This has happened, but the present Muslim community, they are not responsible for it. But then again I say, the moment they try to justify the earlier violence, they also become part of it. So, do not justify it. Say this has happened, that was a medieval period, but now we have to move forward. So, whenever I am doing this one conservation, whenever I am taking up the conservation work of temples, because in Bateshwar I have conserved more than 80 temples, and similarly many of the Buddhist stupas, most of them were destroyed by Muslims. So, I really feel, I really repent for it, whatever had happened in the past, and whenever I do this kind of conservation work and re-erecting the temples, my humble prayer is, because I am atoning for the past sins of the Muslim community, and I have no problem in publicly declaring it also, because this was a civilizational wound. This has happened, but now again this should not happen. So, we have to move forward, and what is the way for moving forward? Understand history in its proper sense, neither try to defend it, and there are certain communist historians also, mostly they are on the side of the Muslim community. They often try to justify things, it was not for the destruction of the temples, it was for, because it was gold and silver was there in the temples, it was only for that one. So, that kind of, because that will be, that kind of interpretation will only encourage the extremist Muslim. That should also not happen. So, what we have to do is, whatever has happened is happened, but now we have to heal, we have to give a kind of healing atmosphere, we have to create a healing atmosphere, and then we should move forward, so that both Muslims and Hindus and other communities also come together and create a united and a strong India. That is my prayer to the coming generation.
So this is Sri K.K. Muhammad sir, Padma Shri Sri K.K. Muhammad sir, who has made Mother India raise her head even higher. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering. Thank you. Namaste.